If you're a guy with type 2 diabetes and you've been thinking about doing keto, just stop. Don't jump in yet because 90% of the keto advice out there will sabotage your long-term results. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the right way to do keto, specifically for diabetic men who want to reverse insulin resistance and build muscle and get their energy back. So not the influencer version, not the bacon and butter fantasy, the performance-based metabolic repair version that actually works. The first thing you need to understand is this. You don't need to be in full-blown ketosis to get the benefits of a low-carb approach. So most guys think the goal is to see high ketones on a meter, but it's not. The goal is to lower insulin resistance, and then restore your body's ability to burn fat without meds. And that means getting your fasting glucose down. It means getting your A1C under 5.7% and your post-meal spikes under control, all while building muscle. And no, you don't need to slam down 70% of your calories from fat. That's one of the biggest mistakes that I see men make when starting keto, because they've been told that fat is the magic fuel that keeps you full. But the reality is protein is actually more satiating. It's more thermogenic and better for blood sugar control. Eating nothing but fat and buttered coffee is not going to fix your metabolism. It's just going to keep you stuck. And here's the hard truth. If you jump into dirty keto, you're only eating a handful of net carbs, but you're eating 70% of your diet is fat and 20% is protein, and then you're eating a bunch of processed food that's keto friendly, you might lose some weight, but you'll also lose your muscle and you'll tank your testosterone and you'll still be metabolically broken underneath. So we're not doing that. So here's what the first month actually looks like. You want to keep your carbs under 30 grams per day total. You want your protein to be about 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight. And then the fat intake is just as needed for satiety. So it's not a specific goal. And this is strict, I know. And that's the point. You are literally retraining your body to burn fat for fuel. So that means you need to starve out the sugar cravings and stop the insulin roller coaster. And now, for this to work, most of your meals will be a variation of eggs, meat, poultry, seafood, high volume non-starchy veggies like spinach and cabbage and cauliflower, and then high satiety foods like Greek yogurt, sardines, and lean ground beef. And then, of course, you'll want a handful of low-carb condiments to keep things interesting. I like the sauces from Primal Kitchen, but whatever you use, doesn't matter. Just make sure it's sugar-free. Now, why is this diet so high in protein? It's because protein keeps muscle on your body and it keeps you full. It's the most thermogenic macronutrient, meaning your body literally burns more calories just to break it down, just to digest it, and it keeps blood sugar stable, better than fat ever will. So that means no nuts, no keto snacks or keto bread or fake sweeteners, just real food. I heard a good saying the other day from Michael Easter. He said, eat food that are ingredients rather than have ingredients. Love that. So by about 3 weeks in, if you've been compliant, your fasting glucose should be down, your cravings should be mostly gone by that point, and your energy should be climbing. It's that effective that quickly. And if you hold that steady for another 2 months, and now we are at the point that we can strategically reintroduce carbs, but only on training days. So strength training 3 to 4 times per week, that means those are your carb days at this point. Your rest days, you still want to maintain that strict low carb diet. So what kind of carbs on training days? So we're not talking donuts, obviously. We're talking cooked and cool white rice or lentils or sweet potatoes, berries, butternut squash, boiled or roasted beets, that kind of stuff. Because these are glucose dominant, but they're also low fructose, micronutrient rich carbs. And they're timed after workouts when you're the most insulin sensitive. And ideally that's earlier in the day. And if you're wondering, wait, isn't that dangerous for diabetics? Well, no, it's not. When you lift weights and you deplete your muscle glycogen, your body becomes more insulin sensitive. It's more effective. You're also more insulin sensitive in the morning. That's why the earlier in the day, the better. So you can tolerate more carbs at that point, which big picture is the goal. So that means post-workout is the safest time to reintroduce carbs. So you're not feeding your fat cells, you're feeding recovery, muscle growth, and even your metabolism. So this is how you rebuild performance and reverse type 2 diabetes. It's a 1-2 punch. And to explain it, well, it's because your body soaks up these calories like a sponge and then uses them to rebuild muscle and not store fat. So this is called targeted carb refeeding. So it's not cheat day. It's not going off plan. You are feeding performance and recovery. As a bonus, if you're doing endurance work like rucking or biking or longer lifting sessions, so anything over 60 minutes, then you can add intra-workout carbs. So a small banana a day or two, glucose with electrolyte drink, or even a little watermelon during the workout. Because this doesn't spike insulin the way you think, because exercise blunts the insulin response. It gives you more energy to train harder. And that means more muscle and better glucose disposal, faster reversal in the long run. Another important part of keto is making sure that you're eating enough food. I've found that the number one reason any diet fails is hunger. And that's why we build your meals around high satiety, low insulin load foods. So steak, egg whites, sardines, instead of things like that are processed like almond flour waffles. So we're talking Greek yogurt with cinnamon instead of keto bars, or a big veggie stir fry with ground bison or lean beef. This approach keeps you full, but also keeps you clear-headed and energized without needing willpower every 2 hours. You know it's working when you can easily go 4 hours after a meal without thinking about food. Here's something else I've noticed about this diet. Most men start strong and then life happens. So we're talking stress or travel or birthdays or, just one beer. They slip for a day and then they feel like they blew it. And then they say, well, there goes that, screw it. So one bad day turns into a full derailment. Here's a mindset reframe. Stop dieting. Start fueling. So your diet isn't a punishment. You don't have to suffer through dinner. Instead, think of your food as a performance tool. So when you train for something, whether that's strength, endurance, or energy, food becomes a cheat code to fuel you, not to just restrict you from pleasure. Then when the energy and performance you gain from that diet feels better than the quick hit from soda, discipline isn't needed anymore. You'll keep going because you want to, because you feel so much better than you did before. Another recommendation I have to make keto work long term is to control your environment. So clean up the pantry, prep your meals, keep your gym bag in the car. The point is, you make it harder to fail when you plan. Then you track progress. So we're not looking for perfection. We just want incremental progress from week to week. And you can use selfies, you can use glucose trends, you can use strength PRs, or even your waist circumference. So anything besides just weighing yourself every day. Because progress will keep you from ordering a beer when everyone else does, which speaks to your new identity shift, something that is more powerful than willpower here, especially when we're talking about diet. So don't think of this experiment as a diet that you're going to be on. Instead, it's a new standard for who you are. You're not a guy trying keto. You're a guy who trains, eats for performance, and can reverse diseases. Now, as you track progress, you'll know this diet is working when your fasting glucose drops below 100. Doesn't have to be consistent, but when there's signs that it's dropping closer and closer to 100, it means it's working. If your A1C falls by about 1 to 2% in 3 months, that means it's working. If your waist circumference shrinks, even if your weight stays the same. If you notice that you have more energy that lasts all day. If you notice you're stronger in the gym, or maybe your doctor looks at you confused and impressed, those are all good signs that this is the right diet for you. But even before all of that, there are early signs most guys report to me within just 2 to 3 weeks of eating this way. And that's, they have no more crashes at 10 a.m. or 3 p.m. They're thinking clear. Their mornings are easier. They feel less bloated, less hungry, and they stop obsessing about food. That's metabolic repair in real time. Okay, what about some common mistakes while on keto? Well, mistake number one is eating too much fat. I think we've talked about this a lot. And the reason why that's such a problem is because it typically means you won't eat enough protein. And then that might lead to some weight loss, but not fat loss. So no improvement in your muscle. Mistake two is not lifting weights or doing some form of resistance training while you're on this diet. So walking is great, but without resistance training, you're not reversing anything. Because remember, muscle is the engine that burns glucose. Mistake number 3, thinking this isn't quote unquote real keto. Because you're right, it's not the lazy version that lets you eat cheese and keto bread all day. This is structured, but it's also targeted specifically for men who have insulin resistance. It uses carb restriction strategically and then reintroduces carbs when your body is primed to handle them. Big picture, ketosis is not the goal. Metabolic flexibility is. So it doesn't matter if this is quote unquote real keto. And no, I want to make this super clear. No, you're not stuck eating this diet forever. The first 12 weeks are all about resetting insulin, restoring fat burning, and building your foundation. After that, we transition to a more flexible performance-based plan that includes carbs because now your metabolism can actually handle them. So, big picture, this isn't a life sentence. All right, quick overview. If you follow this protocol for 12 weeks, here's what should happen. Your blood sugar should stabilize without meds. You should drop some fat, not muscle. Your strength should increase. Your cravings should be gone. And you've reintroduced carbs with purpose. And you've built a sustainable way of eating for the next 10 years, not just the next 10 pounds. From here, we shift into performance nutrition. Again, not restriction. You start training harder. You eat more strategically. You cycle carbs around your activity. And then you use data from CGMs, from labs, from your strength training logs to refine your next phrase. The trick isn't just cutting carbs, it's knowing when to cut, when to refeed, and how to refuel your performance as a guy who wants to win the long game. This is what we do in my program. We don't give you a meal plan and send you off to struggle. We train and track and adapt until your body performs like it was built to. So look, if you were diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or metabolic syndrome, or if you're overweight, you don't need meds for life. You don't need to suffer through a miserable diet to succeed. But you do need a plan, and you do need the guts to follow through. So start with keto, and let me know if you need additional support with the specifics. All right, let's get to work.